Listen, I'm not here to disparage anyone's advice. Some people are going to look at me and say I'm giving terrible advice about such and such. Somebody came to me the other day and told me that oxygen absorbers don't work and you have to freeze everything first because, well, I don't know. Anyway, I'm trying to bust myths, and sometimes when I bust myths, people get very agitated. But I want you to come into this with an open mind. This advice is really old and antiquated, and I just want you to prep with a more open mind. So here's some of the worst prepping advice I've heard over the years. You need a year's worth of food. Now listen, of course, who wouldn't love more food, right? It's always nice to be able to have more food available to you, but sometimes people don't have the space and they don't have the money. And then a lot of people, you should be rotating your food regularly. So to say to somebody you absolutely have to have a year no matter what is ridiculous. It's not common for most people to have a year's worth of supply. Now, you can work up to getting that year's worth of food, no problem, right? My advice, take your time and start with simple goals. Start with 1 week's worth of food, then 2, then 3, then 4, and keep working it up like that. These are small, manageable goals that anybody can work towards. You're gonna die if you live in the city. Oh, I just love this one. This is priceless. People keep saying that you are going to die if you live in the city because, well, you know what? The city is congested with a lot of people, right? And I understand the thought and where they're coming from. You will maybe get trapped, or there might be more chaos in the city, and I get it. In a city, in an urban environment, there's more congestion of people, right? But that doesn't mean that that's the worst place to be. Yes, there's a lot of people. Do you know what a lot of people are going to be doing as well? If they decide to all evacuate from the city, where are they gonna go? Rural. That's where they're gonna go. And you think that your rural area is gonna be any safer? I have firearms just like you, no matter where, right? So I find it incredibly insulting that preppers say you should never live in the city and you're going to die if you live in the city. Some people have no choice. This is where a lot of healthcare is. This is where jobs are. This is sometimes where a lot of family is. There's sometimes nothing you can do about it, and you live in the city. That's okay. You need to prep exactly where you are. And if you want to get out into the rural area, then make a plan to get there. But just know, just because you live rural doesn't mean you're safe from all harm and nothing bad will ever happen to you if you live rural. That's just not right either. You only need beans and rice to live. Wrong. I did a video in the past about this, how I was debunking this, how you cannot live on just beans and rice. Now, you might be able to live temporarily. Let's go ahead and say that. You might be able to survive for a very short amount of time, but you're not thriving. And I don't want you to think of prepping as surviving. I want you to think of prepping as thriving. You need to diversify your food. And with being able to have canned food, freeze-dried, dehydrated, MREs, whatever other options you want, it is just incredible that we still have this mindset of you should only be storing rice and beans. I get it. Rice and beans last forever, right? That's why preppers want to store it. I am very privy to this information. And I do store beans and rice because we eat a lot of it, but we also have vegetables with it. We also have other protein sources with it. And I will be darned if I'm going to eat beans and rice for the rest of my life. I need variety. So prep variety. Okay? We're preppers. We can do that. We have forethought. We can prep what we want. All you need is a gun, and you are good to go. This is especially frustrating when people say, well, I have a gun, I'm just going to come and take your stuff. You got a gun, and you're thinking that preppers don't have guns? Anyway, my point is a lot of people will put a lot of emphasis on guns and ammo, and trust me, I love both of those things a lot, okay? But it's not the only thing you need. And especially if you're planning on having that stuff for like hunting, well, you better know how to hunt now, brothers and sisters, okay? You better know how to hunt now, because this is the time to learn. If you don't know how to do it now, you're going to have a real bad time in the apocalypse, okay? Bugging out is a terrible idea, and it is never, ever needed. Don't ever bug out. When did people associate bugging out with being this mythical being in which nobody ever does. People have had to evacuate their homes for a variety of reasons. Hurricane, floods, fires, lots of different reasons that you may need to evacuate your home. I think bugging out and evacuating are never really like together. So people don't really associate bugging out with evacuating. They think bugging out is just end of the world, I'm going to bug out into the woods. That is not realistic, right? But you should have a plan for your bugging out. If you do have a bug out bag and you do have an evacuation plan or a bug out plan, this is just having a plan on where would you go if I were forced out of my home. Of course, staying at your home and bugging in is the way to go, right? Like, nobody wants to leave their home, but we are preppers. So let's go ahead and have a plan A and plan B, right? Plan A, stay in. Plan B, evacuate if such and such, right? There's no reason we can't have these plans. Even in a rural environment, there was a fire right behind our place, and we had our bug out bags ready to go. Maybe it's less likely to bug out if you live in a rural area, maybe, but there's still many situations in which you may need to evacuate your home, regardless of where you live. I don't bother with comms, okay? Just don't bother with comms. I don't have anyone to talk to anyway, right? I have talked about this a lot, and it really frustrates me when people think that you don't need any sort of comms or communication, or you don't need to listen to intel. Intel is power. Straight up. Nobody says that you have to use the comms to talk to other people, but having the comms to listen to intel about what is going on around you is power. I mean, just look at the media. They're using that power to their advantage by being fear-mongering and taking advantage of people's fears and doubts and all these things through the media. Okay? Intel is power. Whether good or bad, it is power. Yo, I just got a life straw. I'm going to be good for the rest of my life. That's all I need. Okay, so I have big problems with life straw, but outside of that, life straw, it's just a straw in which you suck water from. And yes, you can get a little bag and squeeze. It takes a lot of energy to do this. And not only that, it takes a lot of time, and you're getting such little water out of this device when you could have a much larger system. Water is a big, big issue for so many people. And if your only solution is a life straw, you gotta think bigger. A bigger gravity-fed system, a bigger water purification system. A life straw is not the only solution. It's just not. Life straw can be part of your plan. Like maybe it can be part of your bug out plan. I don't even have straws in my kits because it's very difficult for kids to suck through them. Even if you're using the bag and squeezing, it is very difficult. So, you're sharing this life straw and squeezing the bag for everybody. That is time consuming. I ain't got no time for that. So we actually don't have any straws at all. We have pump systems, and we have other larger gravity fed systems, things like that we can rely on without relying on a straw, which is very tedious, time consuming, and does not give you a lot of water in the long run. You don't need comfort to survive. You're surviving. You gotta just suck it up and deal with it, okay? Listen, I am all for adapting, overcoming our struggles, struggling, like embrace the suck. I'm all about that, okay? However, I'm also of the mindset that we need to understand that it's okay to be comfortable. It's okay to prep our wants as well as our needs. It's okay to prep the type of food that you want to eat. You don't want to eat rice and beans, then don't prep it, okay? You want to prep skincare because that matters to you, prep it. I have never been of the mindset that you cannot prep something. If you want to prep it, prep it. This is your journey, yours, not mine. I will give reviews and advice and talk you through things, but in the end, it's going to be up to you to decide what is best for you and your family's needs and wants. But, ladies and gentlemen, do you know what the absolute worst piece of advice is? Just don't prep. Why bother? Lately, I've been coming up against a lot of people who are just bumping heads with, why should I even bother? You know why you should bother? Because bad things happen. And I'm not talking about an apocalypse. I'm not talking about a civil war. I'm not talking about World War III. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. I'm talking about everyday stuff. You know, I carry a first aid kit with me everywhere we go. And that is an emergency in and of itself, and something that I prepare for. I have children. They fall, they get scrapes, they get bug bites, they get all these things in which I can take care of with my first aid kit. That is something to be prepared for. Snacks for my children on our outings, that's something to be prepared for. Getting stuck somewhere in our car, that's something to be prepared for. A lights out situation in which I need to cook alternatively, that's something to be prepared for. There are lots of little things to be prepared for in this world without having to go to the extreme. I will say this, I like to go to the extreme, because if I'm prepared for doomsday, I'm prepared for all the little things too, right? But we can't forget about those little things. These are reasons to prepare. And even more so reason, my family. I love them, and I want to make sure that they are well taken care of no matter what. Whether we stay or go, whatever the situation is, I will make sure that they're taken care of. Thank you all so much for watching. Please comment down below with anything you'd like to add, agree with, disagree. That's okay. We live in a community of people in which we can all agree and disagree. Thank you. You're great. Conquer tomorrow by preparing today. Talk to you later. Bye.